Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the YouTube channel for Peacefully Wired. My name is Matt, aka Peacefully Wired, and in this video, I wanted to get back into my HOCD, ROCD series, the fears and compulsions, and this is going to be the fear of losing your attraction to the opposite sex. Before I go any further, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think about the comment. Again, bad or good, I really don't care. I would like to hear what you think about what I'm doing here and what I'm trying to build. And let me know any content that you would like me to talk about. Anything regarding OCD, anxiety, depression, I can help you with all of those things. So the fear of losing your attraction to the opposite sex is definitely a fear that I had. It's a fear that a lot of my students that have HOCD talk to me about. You know, I'm afraid I'll never be attracted to a woman again. I'll never get that feeling again. I'll never be able to have a family. You know, I'll never be able to do all of those things that we, in a large part are kind of told that we have to do, essentially, right? It's kind of the way society moves. You're, supposed to find someone, get married, have a family, do all that stuff. And nothing inherently wrong with that. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't do that. There's a lot of pros to getting married, being with somebody, having a family. There's cons. There's also pros to being single, and there's cons to being single as well. But a huge fear that a lot of, and it could be girls on the other side. I haven't worked with any girls yet that, that's not true. I do have a student that has HOCD, although we haven't talked about her losing her attraction to men. But just going back, it's losing the attraction to the opposite sex is a big fear for a lot of people. Why is that? Well, one, it is the fear of losing a part of yourself, right? Our identity. We feel like our sexuality is our identity, which a lot of people think that their identity is based around their sexuality, which is why you have so many men in particular, but I'm seeing it more in women too, who are just defined by like their looks. They're defined by their sexual prowess. They're defined by, they're defined by how they're able to attract others. And it's just one aspect of your life essentially, and it's a way to break down this fear of this loss of identity, right, or the loss of being attracted to the opposite sex, right? And it's a fear you'd have to break down. Okay, if you wanted to essentially get over or start to build the momentum to get over your fear of being gay, you'd have to break down the fear of losing the attraction to the opposite sex. Would that be the worst thing in the world? No, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And we're going back to defining yourself and your being as your sexuality, as your sexual identity, right? So many people say it. It's this losing my identity, which is actually going to be the next video, but it's losing the sexual identity or losing the attraction to the opposite sex. Neither one of these things define you as a person. We like to think that they do. We like to think that our sexuality, straight, gay, whatever, like defines us as a person. It doesn't. It's just an aspect of yourself. Sex is just a part of your life. It's not your whole life. If you put the condition on your life that sex is who you are, that's a really lonely life to live. Okay, and that life does not end well for you, because there will become a time when you're not going to be attractive. Okay, you're not going to want to have sex, right? I think it's really ridiculous when I hear about the rates of sexually transmitted diseases in senior communities where men are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they're taking Viagra and they're still having sex. Why? Why? I'll tell you why. It's not because they're interested in having sex anymore. I'll tell you, I know that for a fact. When you get to a certain age, right, your testosterone starts to diminish. Now, it doesn't mean that if you stay active, get in the gym, work out hard, eat certain foods, right, that you can't keep your testosterone at a higher level. But it does edge off. It does taper off as you get older. Physical attraction, that feeling, that need, that urge, whatever, that animal urge to have sex does not exist as much as you get older, right? And if you've noticed, as you were a teenager in your 20s and your 30s, wherever you are at, I'm in my 40s, I'm 45. I've noticed definitely not as important to me. The other thing is that a lot of the importance that we put around sex in general is societal. You're not as horny as you think you are. Okay? Just because you have an urge here, just because you have an urge or you feel horny, amorous, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't mean first and foremost that you have to have sex, right? So there's a way to break down the fear of losing the attraction to the opposite sex, right? Just because I feel a certain way, does that mean I have to act on it? No. Do I die if I don't have sex? No. Um, Absolutely not, especially not in that moment and not in the long run. There's many people. There's like 1% of the population that's asexual, meaning they never have sex with anybody. Okay. I actually would like to look up that statistic really quick about how long their lives are, because there's a lot of stuff that, says that, having sex makes someone's life happier. But that doesn't necessarily, that can't necessarily be true, because I mean, look at adult performers, look at porn stars. How many of them are actually happy having sex on camera all the time? They have sex probably more than the average person does, right? Um, there's relationships where people, I've heard them. We have sex all the time. Those people end up getting divorced. We have sex all the time. Could you tell your partner that you have OCD? Oh no, they think I was crazy, right? It doesn't equal a happy relationship. It doesn't equal a happy life, right? When you get off, okay, like that doesn't last for the whole day. I mean, you have intimate time in the morning. Yeah, maybe it feels good. You go off to do your work. There's things that can happen in life that the strings, the puppet strings get pulled down, you get pulled up, all that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't equal a happier life. It can make you happy in the moment, and it might enhance your life some. Will you be as happy if for the rest of your life you weren't able to have sex with the opposite sex? Potentially, but is it going to mean that your life is over or ruined? No, and that's the attitude that we can have when we are afraid of losing our attraction to the opposite sex. Like, that's going to ruin our lives. Well, no, it's just a part of your life. And there's so many other things that you're probably still interested in, right? Again, if sex is the only thing that interests you in life, you're going to have a very difficult time recovering from OCD, because there's so much more. And if you have a condition on your life that you always have to be sexually active, you always have to be performing, right? You always have to be, you definitely have to know for sure what your sexuality is. Like, that is going to give you a lot of undue emotional distress. So if your life is built around sex as the most important thing, then you're going to have, that's conditional, and you need to have an unconditional acceptance of, look, even if I didn't have sex ever again, okay, I would still be okay in my life. And there's other things in my life that I could put my time and effort into, and potentially be really good at those things, or not, whatever. Just shifting your energy into something else and being okay with the idea that you might not ever have sex again. Doesn't mean that you agree with it. It doesn't mean that you don't want to have sex ever again. It just means that to overcome and break away from the cycle of HOCD, this is one of the fears that you would have to break down. Like, is it really that bad if I was never able to have sex with the opposite sex again? No, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It wouldn't be great. And obviously, if you're someone who enjoys having sex, which most people do, it wouldn't be something that you would be excited about. But at the same time, if like that's going to ruin your life, you'll never be able to break the OCD cycle. So you have to get accustomed to that potentially being a possibility if you're struggling with HOCD. Okay? And like I said, acceptance is not agreement, but you have to break down that belief. What would be another way to break down the fear of losing the attraction to the opposite sex? So yeah, another way to break down that fear would be, I mean, just because you're not attracted to the opposite sex anymore, it doesn't necessarily mean that you wouldn't be able to spend your life with somebody of the opposite sex. Um, there are people that are together where maybe they can't have intimacy, right? You might have somebody who is either paralyzed, right, a quadriplegic, okay, who doesn't have feeling from their neck down. I mean, not real fun to be intimate, right? You're not feeling a whole lot of stuff. You can't feel anything in your body. So, like, but there are people that are in those kind of relationships. You could have a situation where, a woman gets into her older age and things down there, sex can become very uncomfortable. It's not uncommon for women for this to happen. And so there could be a point in a relationship that you're in, right, where all of a sudden your wife is like, I don't think we can have sex anymore, right? That doesn't mean that like there couldn't be other things that go on, but essentially you wouldn't be able to have sex anymore, like full on intercourse. Which would that be the worst thing in the world, right? Again, like even if you lost the attraction and there was no attraction there, in that type of a situation where you couldn't have sex anymore, it would kind of be the same thing to a certain degree, right? I mean, you could still, there's stuff you could still do, obviously, but then looking at the someone being paralyzed, right? You not being able to have sex, but still being able to have a relationship with somebody. So just because you might lose that attraction doesn't mean that you still wouldn't be able to essentially have a relationship with somebody in the opposite sex. There's nothing that says that you couldn't, you know, get artificial insemination, get pregnant, have kids. I mean, if you weren't attracted, you'd obviously have to do that act on your own, and then the artificial insemination, the turkey baster, or whatever, right? But that doesn't mean you still couldn't have kids with that person and still raise a family, even if you had lost the attraction to the opposite sex. Because that's a fear that people have. Because I've lost my attraction, now I won't be able to have a family. It's like, well, you actually can. I mean, if you look at something called lavender marriages, which I just learned about, you actually have gay men who are marrying women, straight women or lesbian women, right? And the sole purpose of them of doing that is so that they can get the benefits, right, of being married, the tax benefits, maybe the outward social appearance, but also they get to have kids, okay, with each other. It's easier for heterosexuals to have kids than it is for a gay couple to actually adopt. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why they do it. So there's another example. Like, even if you were essentially gay, you could still actually have a family with someone of the opposite sex. You could have children with them that had your genetics and their genetics, right? So these are ways to break down, the fear of losing attraction, as it's not actually the worst thing in the world, even though these scenarios may in your mind right now not be optimal. But if you have the belief and you have the attitude, well, I can't accept that, right? Basically, if you have the condition that no, it has to be, I don't care what you're saying, Matt, about these other options, right? I have to know that I'm straight and I have to know that I'm attracted to the opposite sex. I'm sorry if that's what you need to know and you can't accept these, at least to some degree, accept the possibility of you might lose attraction to the opposite sex. Just the possibility, right? The 0.0001% chance that you might lose that, and break down these scenarios where, yes, you could unconditionally accept your life if it had to move in a different direction, right? Not 100% liking it, not agreeing with it, but definitely accepting it and doing your best to live your life on these other terms. You won't recover from OCD. You definitely won't be able to get over HOCD. So I appreciate you guys watching. Again, like and subscribe. If you're looking to get one-on-one coaching sessions with me, support@gmail.com. I'm sorry, support@peacefullywired.com. It was peacefullywired@gmail.com. Now it's support@peacefullywired.com. Support@peacefullywired.com if you'd like to work with me. And please, if you want to join our OCD community, give me your name and your email. Check me out on TikTok. You can DM me, or that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Or you can go to my website and learn about how to join our OCD community there. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video.